it's that profound, really. It's a longer, happier life, is to summarize what the outcomes are. That's acquiring over the course of a 12-week program the tools and the knowledge and the mindset to be able to do it for the rest of my life. I think you've created something and you're running something here which is special and is different to what's out, the other stuff that's out there. Just the amount of knowledge and the amount of thought and thoughtfulness that you've put into the program to make it work for people like me, I think is remarkable. I'm Lewis Cohen. I'm 52 years old, a dad of 3 young children. So my kids are 5, 8, and 10. When I came into the program, I was very overweight, pretty depressed, and really felt on a bit of a low, and didn't feel like I was able to show up properly in the way that I wanted to show up for my family for physical and well-being reasons. Like I'd been on seemingly at the time successful weight loss journeys before, but obviously not sustained them, right? And so I was coming in with an interesting blend of kind of experience and knowledge, but I'd probably describe it as just enough knowledge to be dangerous. I'm not necessarily sure I was skeptical when I came in, but I think what I was trying to feel my way through was, how am I going to make this different to other times I've been here? And that's been a really interesting thing for me throughout the program. But it has been different this time. Like, this stuff feels much more locked in now compared to how it's been in the past.
Tell me how you'd ended up in that position where you felt like you'd let things slide, you weren't showing up physically, or you weren't physically where you needed to be for everything.
That had happened because kind of the pressures of everyday work, quite a high pressurized, high workload job, and the pressures of kind of supporting the family had put me in a place where I felt like I was rewarding and sustaining myself with things which, if you take a step back, are really were doing the damage. So alcohol, snacking, eating biscuits, and all this stuff that added up, not working out, not exercising, was all coming from a place of thinking, well, you shouldn't have to, mate. You do enough. You shouldn't have to go and work out. You've worked 14 hours today. Have that biscuit. You've earned it. You deserve it. You've got to get some like pleasure from something, kind of thing. That was the sort of mindset. It was I'd got myself into that position out of a sense of self-comfort, self-soothing, reward, entitlement, whatever you want to call it. Not directly before I started with you, but a couple of months beforehand, I'd had a blood test. I did one of these, private blood tests, and that had come back and said low testosterone, and like really low, like 9 nanomoles per liter or whatever. And that was like a get out of jail. Well, I mean, you've got low testosterone. You can't be expected to do all of this stuff as well. What's the point of going to the gym? You've got low testosterone, won't make any difference. So that kind of stuff, all of that, and there, that had also given me some health markers around high cholesterol and stuff like that, and that was on my mind as I started to think. Gave me the initial impetus to go, I've got to do something different. I've got to break this cycle somehow.
But obviously, the hope coming into this program was, well, this is going to be different. But what did you think initially was that difference?
I think the difference was like we had our initial conversation, and what you made clear was that this was around finding the answers that worked for me and worked in and around. I think the phrase you used was my non-negotiables. Whereas I think in the past it had been about you've got to adhere to this structure, and you've got to adhere. Forget how you do everything today. Forget the realities and constraints of your life. You're on a new regimen now, and it goes like this. And I could sustain that for so long, but not once you're out of that Facebook group or out of that whatever kind of you've hit that 6-week mark or whatever. So I think the fact that from the outset, you were like, this is about making this work for you and where you are, and there are aspects of your life, as there are aspects of everybody's life, that you can't change sustainably. So I think it was the focus on sustainability that was different. There was one metaphor that you used in one of your trainings around summit fever, the mountaineer thing, which is so many people people die on the way down because they've spent themselves and they've burnt themselves out getting to the peak because they thought that was what it was all about. They haven't left enough in the tank to get down again. And that was a very powerful kind of image, and not something that had been part of any previous experiences of trying to do this. The idea that this is the infinite game. It doesn't end, and you play that game differently because it doesn't end. Like you can sustain all sorts of unsustainable things for 6 weeks on but if when you've got to live with what you're doing now, the things you have to live with long term, that does make you think differently about, okay, what's going to work, what isn't going to work, and how am I going to work around all of that. What's really interesting when you come in to the course is that you don't get everything chucked at you at once. You actually very carefully curate the content to onboard you into that process and set you up with some good foundational understanding to work on, but do that first. It's not right, well done, you're on board, here's your workouts, and then and here's a bombardment of information. Like, they're very careful and thoughtful sort of sequencing of that stuff in over the first 2-3 weeks made a big difference to me, certainly. And yeah, so it does, the exercises around really thinking through what my motivating factors were, and what the real outcomes that I was looking for, beyond outcomes around losing weight or anything, but what does that really mean? What will be different when you've lost that weight, and focusing on those things.
What were those things for you?
For me, so much of it was just around having energy for my kids, feeling like I bringing something to my relationship. All of those were the main factors. But also, I work in, I think I said this to you in our first sort of conversation, like in the job I do, I work in innovation. And when I show up in the meeting room, a lot of the people I'm in the room with, they look like you. They don't look like I look, they look like me, right? I'm at the older end of working in the innovation world, or at least in my industry. And so there was also a bit of work confidence about walking in and not feeling like a has-been, feeling like needing to project some kind of vitality. I'd withdrawn from social interactions because I've been on this up and down weight loss journey. There are a lot of people who I'm like, I can't see them because the last time they saw me, I was in good shape, and now I'm a wreck. And that awkward, oh, you're looking well kind of moment. It seems like literally made me want to avoid seeing people. So there was that aspect of it too, which is not mentally very healthy.
When you reflect back now, having finished, how easy have you found it?
Way easier than I thought it was going to be. I mean, there were some aspects of it that were more challenging than others. I think I've got a bad relationship with exercise, so that was something that needed quite a bit of overcoming. And the most challenging bit of it has been sort of maintaining and driving the consistency around exercise, but also seeing exercise for the role it's playing was totally different. Like the way you positioned it, which is, the exercise is for maintaining muscle while you're losing fat, but it's not the thing. It's not the lever that, to use the phrase you talked about, the levers that you pull. That's not the lever you pull to shed 10 kilos of fat. That's diet. So I was able to sort of compartmentalize them differently. But I have found it easier. I found myself not struggling to stay within kind of calorie limits, really at all. I haven't found myself sort of feeling too challenged around food. There was like, you do point out some like 1 or 2 recipe things, but and the strategies for meals was really helpful as well. So in other words, giving strategies for, okay, you're in the office and you've just got to grab a quick lunch and you're caught unawares, or you've got to go out to dinner. What do you do? I thought those things were really valuable. So that kind of the food aspect of it, which was the thing that I've struggled with the most historically, was actually the easiest bit. There were a couple of moments over the duration where like work went absolutely bananas, and there was especially a 2-week period where I was involved in multiple things over multiple time zones, and basically I was doing 16-hour days like for 2 weeks solid, weekends included, which happens 2 or 3 times a year in my role. It's not like a sustainable thing, but it happens. And definitely in the past, that would have seen me go if I was trying to work on my health, that would have seen me completely go off the rails. What went this time around during those 2 weeks was working out and getting through all of the training material. But actually, I maintained my calorie targets and stuff during that time, and that meant that I came out of it, and I think I'd still lost a bit of weight during that period of time.
You did.
I certainly hadn't done what would have happened in the past, which was I would have gone back to square one probably from wherever I was. So that made a big difference, and that really made. I'm glad that happened. I'm glad that something like that happened during the period of the program, because it tested it and it enabled me to talk to you about it and see about some coping strategies for those sorts of things, and also get some confidence and resilience from the fact that it's just like, well, that's about as bad as it gets, and you didn't fall off the rails. So I can't tell you exactly why I didn't, or there's something in the structure of how you build up slowly to those sorts of points that built in that resilience. But yeah, it was there, certainly.
Talk me through the results you did get in the program.
Yeah. So, I've lost a significant amount of weight. I mean, I'm tracking towards 10K lost, which is great. It does feel different. Like I feel like I've got more. I definitely focus on diet and working out, resistance training definitely makes me feel like I've got more muscle. I've kept more muscle than other times I've lost weight in the past. And so I feel I've lost fat. I feel stronger. Definitely feel like I have more energy, and it becomes a self-perpetuating thing, because if I knowing that I'm not going to be a tired, sweaty mess by the end of it, I will go and do the 15-minute walk to the shops rather than jump in the car. And therefore that's a whole new load of activity that I've just done that I wouldn't have done otherwise. And it really does kind of snowball, I find. So there's that. I have definitely feel more energetic and more mobile with the kids. I mean, before I literally didn't feel like I could run. I felt like I didn't have I felt like if I tried to run, like I'd fall over, and that wouldn't be falling over. That would be having a fall, right? if I did that. And when you get over 50, there's a difference. I did another blood test just the other week. Huge difference, right? So testosterone up to nearly double what it was. Like, so going from 9 to 16, which has been amazing. The depression has lifted a lot, and obviously that can be in multiple factors. I mean, feeling better about yourself obviously makes a big difference. Testosterone does make a big difference to mood, but that has lifted a lot, and all of my health markers were in healthy ranges around cholesterol and kidney function, liver function. All of it was just like, everything was like back down the middle. And that was that's a good outcome. And I genuinely have some different kind of ingrained habits now. Like, it would feel weird for me to go and get in a car for a journey that would only take 10 or 15 minutes to walk now. And these things have just become kind of coded in, if you like.
The question is, because when we started this, the question wasn't, could I lose weight? The question was, is there a way of doing this where I don't have to live like a monk and I can keep weight off indefinitely? And now, reflecting back on those results, do you feel like you can?
Yeah, because I mean, I think it really doesn't. This just feels like a more natural, tempted to say, not lifestyle, because lifestyle means that it's just like, I have fun. I'm doing CrossFit now. This is now my personality. That's not what I mean. It's like, but in terms of a way of living, a way of eating, and a way of seeing activity, sleep as well, big thing. So focusing on going to bed at a reasonable time. But yeah, it feels really sustainable. It doesn't feel like I'm on a diet now. Like, I'm watching. I have a calorie target, and I'm watching that, and I'm staying within it. It doesn't feel like I'm on a diet. It just feels like I eat a certain way now. And it's as I say, I look at those things, and I'm just like, I can't see why I would eat that now.
If you could summarize those results, what they mean for you, what do you think they do mean for you?
Ultimately, they mean a longer, more fulfilled life. I mean, it's nothing less than that, really. It's to the quality of the next 20, 30 years, thinking about the age that I'm at now, thinking about the age that my kids are at, I did start having kids late. So, it means that firstly, I need to be an active earner for longer than maybe otherwise. I probably do need to be still out there at sort of getting towards 70. But also I need to be a more youthful version of, I need to be the most youthful version of my age that I can be, or at least not prematurely age myself by being unhealthy. So, I'm going to be the 70-year-old dad standing, walking my daughter down the aisle, but I've got to be able to walk. I can't be limping. And so it's just thinking about the future in those terms, where in the past I'd been a bit resigned to being a bit crap about all that stuff. So it's that profound, really. It's a longer, happier life, is to summarize what the outcomes are. But that's acquiring over the course of a 12-week program the tools and the knowledge and the mindset to be able to do it for the rest of my life.
And the confidence that you're going to be able to do it for the rest of your life.
Yeah. I mean, just knowing that things work, just having proved that for me, and not just for other people, but for me, this stuff works, then that makes a big difference, because so many times you convince yourself that something's going to work. Letting go of the kind of artificial assumptions and things like that you put on yourself, that kind
the
of
limiting beliefs that stories that we tell ourselves of why I can't do this, why this can't be done in my situation, and it justifies the current situation you're in. And the first thing we have to do when you come in is we have to break those limiting beliefs.
Yeah, I think what's been different there, though, is in the infinite game, those beliefs are replaced with things which are practical and still achievable for you, as opposed to being we're now imposing a wholesale paradigm shift on your life and outlook, and that's how this is going to happen. That was kind of my experience of other, not similar programs, but other kind of coaching programs in the past. It was just like, you're clear, especially when you're a man of a certain age, like they're clearly right. You're a man in crisis who doesn't know your place in the world, and therefore you have to diarize every 10 minutes of your day. And it's just like, well, no, I don't. That's not for me. Or it's clearly, or there's a lot of kind of pseudo militaristic stylings going on in some of the online coaching things.
Yeah. That's I see a lot of that,
which is really weird as well. Well, it's not weird. I get it. But if you're not, remember, I came into this with being a fairly low test kind of guy. So, that doesn't work as well. But so what's replacing some of those limiting beliefs with ones which still make sense and are still achievable for you is the biggest thing. That's what enables you to let go of them, right? Is the achievability and the obvious achievability of the beliefs and the habits that are going to replace those things. That makes a big difference, I reckon.
If you had any advice for those guys that are on the strategy calls, that are in the same position that you were in, any advice that you could take, having now gone through this and you're on the other side?
Yeah. Okay. There's a few things, I think. Firstly, you mentioned the investment. It's not an insignificant investment. From where I am now, all I can say is I would have paid a good deal more to feel how I feel now. I think that I think that this is not a generic, by the numbers, kind of regurgitated, publicly available domain. This is not one of those things where the information that you get and the insights you get and the trainings and stuff you would readily come by on your own. And more important than that, even, is that it's the structure and the coaching that enables you to apply that knowledge. For me, it's been different, and for me, it's been worth the investment. The things that made me confident to make that initial leap, right, was like, obviously you are very personally credible, but also in terms of seeing the other kinds of people doing it, they were people like me. These were professional guys, mostly the business, running their own businesses or senior positions, and I felt confident that I was going to get something different. I even said to you, I think in that strategy call, I was like, in the group, people aren't going on about beast mode and posting pictures of lions all the time, are they? And
I remember you saying that. Yeah,
that is not what these group of people is like at all. So I think it started to. I had the confidence that this was a more professional kind of environment, and that that there was going to be more to to it than just a typical generic, you see these things on Instagram, DM me for a 6-week program kind of thing. It wasn't just that, but with a premium layer put on it. It was like at its core much more thought through. I got a lot of value. I mean, your expertise makes a big difference. Sorry to blow smoke for a second, but your expertise and your credibility was really valuable as well, in cutting through. As I say, a lot of people will be coming into this and they've been on programs before, or they're looking at this stuff online and they're getting loads of spurious information. Like your kind of knowledge and credibility cut through a lot of that, which enabled me to make some decisions. Like, for example, a specific example, like when you say, I don't know why people keep going on about high protein diets being bad for your kidneys. It's rubbish. It's been disproven. Like, that's great. Great. That's a whole load of stuff I can just get off my plate, because I mean, and that's what professional people pay for in an advisor, right? It's tell me the things I don't have to think about because you've thought about them and you've got that sorted, and it filters out all of that crap, and that's worth an investment too. So I mean, my advice to anybody looking at it would be do it. I think you've created something and you're running something here which is special and is different to what's out, the other stuff that's out there. Just the amount of knowledge and the amount of thought and thoughtfulness that you've put into the program to make it work for people like me, I think is remarkable. I'm really grateful. I mean, it's been it has genuinely changed things for me, and changed them in a way that's going to go on. Like I those things, like I say, these things feel very locked in, so that even when I know, I mean, like when life throws stuff at me, I know that things aren't going to go completely tits up, frankly, because I've got a different outlook on things now. And so, I'm really grateful to you as well. I think you're really good at this. Like you obviously you are, that, because you can tell that there's a lot of value in what you do. Like, you are kind of unique. Like, you are different to other people who operate in this space and run similar or similarly pitched but not similar programs. In terms of your depth of knowledge is incredible, but also just personally, you're somebody who, like, anyone would accept guidance from. Like, my experience of other things is just like, there comes a point when you're like, oh, mate, you're a pillock, I can't listen to you anymore. And there's no chance of that ever happening, right? Like because you're not positioning yourself. Well, firstly, you've got the capabilities and all of that knowledge, but you're positioning things differently. You're positioning themselves. You're not positioning yourselves as mentoring somebody. You're positioning yourselves as coaching them through what they've got to do in their situation. And I think there's a level of sophistication in that others don't have, and that you do. So I think that's been what's kept me engaged throughout the whole process too.